Josh, the Hounds haven't signed anyone new since we last talked, but they had 2 more preseason games, and they're gearing up for Louisville to come to town on Saturday. We're going to break it all down while also determining our top 11 players in the Lily era. It should be fun. Let's go. With this background music, it makes me just like I don't know. I feel like let's go. Like I feel like I'm in a lounge. Like let's go, guys.
Your "Let's Go" couldn't be too loud because it felt too inappropriate with this music. It's like you're disturbing someone.
Yeah. All right. Should I cut the music?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think the whole podcast needs the music.
That's fine. We did it last week. So just some, how the sausage is made kind of thing. The service that we use is called Restream that allows us to sort of stream everything live, which is really cool. But in terms of being able to add our own music, it doesn't allow just like bring in our own music, but they have this whole like library of music we can use as a background, but it's completely AI generated and it's random. So you can pick a category and it'll start playing it and I can just hit like randomizer, but we'll never get the same background music like multiple episodes in a row because it won't happen. So it makes it a little bit weird. At some point, maybe we'll just like get a mixer
lives right now.
I'm pretty sure it's just copyright thing. So like they don't have to copyright anything. So therefore it's all free to use. But if you get to pick it, then you might use the same one over and over again. Then maybe you can make a claim for copyright. So I feel like this is all just a way to do it for free.
Yeah, I think it's just to cover their butts so that nobody is stealing music. Kev, what's going on?
Nothing. No, I don't know. Nothing much. Watched in our attempt to get through most of the Oscar nominations. We watched Top Gun this past weekend.
Wait. Top Gun was up for an Oscar?
It's up for Best Picture.
Yeah, Maverick's
really
got a lot of praise. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it was better than I thought it was going to be. I had pretty low expectations. It was good. The action sequences were incredible. To like how they shot it and just, it was awesome. Everything else in between, I was like, I don't really care that much. But every time like an action sequence popped up, I was like, this is sick.
I don't know, man. I watched that right after watching the original Top Gun, and they did a really good job of like threading some things about the son, about Goose's son, and like all that kind of stuff, and like flashbacks. I was like, this is really good. This is really good. Seeing it in theaters, and it's definitely like a movie. Like I think I went for Father's Day with my dad. I was like, this is what you see for Father's Day.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool. I better than I thought.
At one point, when it first came out in theaters, the advertisements for it were everywhere. And so the boys, like my boys, hadn't seen the original Top Gun yet. So I was like, well, we got to see that first if we're going to see this. And I remembered watching the original Top Gun when I was younger, and I remembered the movie very differently. It was still good. It was entertaining, but it just didn't feel like it held up to the level of sort of what they were expecting. And so they sort of got bored with it. So I keep meaning to watch the new one, and I just haven't seen it yet, but I want to check it out. So I will check it out.
I just didn't know like they learned how to fly F-18s. Like, holy crap! It's just that alone.
Tom Cruise, at this point, Tom Cruise just like does movies and uses that excuse to like take classes for things. It's like I'm gonna go to space. I'm gonna be on the International Space Station next. That's what's gonna happen with him. And then like he, with all the Mission Impossibles, he's just like, fly a helicopter. I want to learn that. Let's do that with me.
James Cameron does something similar. Like I remember him saying he made Titanic because he just wanted to go to the bottom of the ocean. So he was like, what's my excuse to go to the bottom of the ocean? Let's make a movie called Titanic, and then I can go down there and it'll be great. So to live that life. I don't know if we talked about this. I started watching there's a show on Apple TV called Shrinking. I don't know if you guys have seen this. In my mind, it's the best show on TV right now. I had heard about, so the guy who plays Roy Kent on Ted Lasso, He wrote it, and he's one of the producers on it. And apparently, Harrison Ford is also he's in it, and Roy Kent. I'm just gonna call him Roy Kent. I know that's not Hercules, whatever. He was on some talk show, and he said like when he met Harrison Ford was like, "That's the best script I've ever seen," and he was like, "Shrinking." Like, you were in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like this isn't that
Well,
good. So
let's be
I was
honest.
like, I gotta,
Raiders of the Lost Ark's
yeah,
not
but I
a
was like,
script.
I gotta check this out, and it's like every line, every moment is just like gold. So yeah, if you're looking for something new, check it out. It's really, really funny.
Jason Segel's in it. He's awesome in it. And
Yeah.
I still feel like watching it, you kind of realize like, oh, Harrison Ford gives a crap about this movie. That's part about the show. I've seen that in a while. Like it's weird to see him actually look like he cared about a role instead of just being like cashing a check.
Are you saying that's what he did for Star Wars?
Oh, for sure. Like I feel like Star Wars was like, I have to do this. They're gonna give me so much money. If I don't do it, I'm stupid. So he just did it. And I think we might have lost Mike.
I think we might have. Oh, I heard a sniff. That sounded like Mike.
Oh no. All right. Well, I will tell you what I did this weekend. I have nothing but furniture, deck furniture in my living room right now. We're getting it all delivered, and it's come in like 8 boxes at this point, and it just keeps on coming and coming. And we also are getting all of our Steel Army merch and everything like that ordered. So like right now, my living room just looks like it's like a Amazon truck or something like that. It's just full of boxes right now. So that's a lot of fun. I think we have Mike back. Let's try it.
I'm here.
Yeah, Mike.
Sorry, I was like,
hey,
just keep going without me. You're fine. No, it's like raining here, and so I was like, did I lose connection? I think it's just the rest of my family's trying to hog the Wi-Fi, so I had to like boot them off and prioritize this because this is the priority,
Aw, thanks.
Don't flatter yourself, but So guys, one thing, let's get into the news. There's very little news, but we're going to talk about it anyway, and then we're going to get into a new thing that I sort of thought of earlier today and just like scrambled to put it together. We'll have more details on it next week. But first and foremost, no new signings since last week. Since last time we talked, we kept hoping for news that like, oh, a bunch of the guys have contracts that were offered to them. Maybe they'll like trickle announce play. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. The closest thing we got was basically when the Hounds played Detroit last Tuesday. They let it slip that one of our lists is Tula Shoenmi, who we can confirm he was playing in the game against Akron. He clearly was playing in the game against Detroit. So we had a name, and we could do a little bit of digging. We know that he was drafted 88th overall by Atlanta United of the MLS. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, plays either striker or on the wing. He is a big body, which is cool. He graduated in spring of 2022, but then he continued playing with his college squad as a grad student after that. And he's from England. That's kind of all we know based on the internet. There's a lot of highlight reels out there just for pretty much every other player. So it's hard to gauge how well he might actually do with the team, assuming that he signs with us. We don't know that yet. But yeah, I mean, Josh, how are you feeling about the fact that we're literally 2 weeks out and we still have, I think, 11 players signed? Maybe
I feel like that's like I have to believe that we actually have more players signed. They just have not announced them yet, and I don't know why they're waiting. But like, there's no way we only have 11 players signed. Like we have to have more players signed.
I could kind of believe it. I don't know.
Really? I don't know. This soon, like this close to the season starting, I feel like we have to be like. I'm not saying the whole squad's already signed. I'm just saying like I don't think it's only 11 players. Like I think we're closer to just needing like 1 or 2 pieces left, not like half the squad.
Okay, I mean, I kind of get it because I mean, I get where you're coming from, Josh, because if you're doomsday planning and then you're the Hounds, worst case scenario is 80% of the trialists that you have in your mind to offer contracts to say no. And then you're literally like, I don't know if we can play the first game of the season. So I get that on that level, but I don't know. I was just so mentally prepared for Lily and co to leave it very late. And to have maybe 65 to 70% of a full squad for day one of season and fill in the rest of the 30% like after the first week of the actual regular season. I don't know. That could be crazy, but I don't know. That's what I was mentally preparing for. So that's where I'm at right now.
I was thinking about this a little bit this morning, and I understand that like we use these camps to try to find players and things like that, but it gets back to what is the actual purpose of the preseason? Like, is the preseason for the guys to get ready for the season, or is it to like take into the last minute to build your team and then your team figures itself out like the first few weeks of the season?
I think it's that.
And that's sort of been the tactic, I guess. So, yeah. Well, the one other thing that sort of made me a little bit curious. So we had gotten rumors, we'll call them rumors, that at the Akron game, essentially a week ago, a little over a week ago, that many of the players had already been offered contracts. And so the thought was that they were just waiting to sign them. And then after the Akron game, which we had discussed was a 0-0 draw, and I think Steve was like, how did we not score against Akron? Word on the street is that Lily was pretty furious after that game, to the point that he did not, he came out of the locker room afterwards, realized the press was there, and he turned around and went right back in and sent Robbie Mertz out instead, because he just did not want to talk to them, which apparently that's like the first time that's ever happened. So I also wonder how much of that is like, he's looking at the squad and going, this ain't it. Pulling back some of those contract offers and trying to do something else, but we just don't know. Our buddy Matt Grubba was sort of live tweeting the Pitt game, and he kept mentioning with the lineups that, instead of saying somebody's name, he says try list. And towards the end, he said, it'll be great next week when I no longer have to use the phrase try list. So in theory, we will have a bunch of signees announced this week. But again, if we're talking like 10 guys, like, are they just going to drop it all on one day and be like, surprise, we now have a team, here's our 10 additional players? There was nothing announced today, so literally there's 4 days between now and Louisville. So like, I don't know.
I will say, if we're in this position 7 days from now, then yes, you could panic. Like if we're going into a week left of preseason and we have like 11 or 12 players, yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I think we have them before the Louisville game. Like I do. I think we have a good amount of players. I'm not saying we're gonna have 100%, but I do think, and like at the same time, like if you think about it, like are these players really going to be starters? Like at the point now, do you feel like we have pretty much our starting lineup? I think we're pretty close.
I think we're close. Yeah.
And like if that's the case, then like yeah, it's not kind of that surprising that you're not going to make like a special day for every single one of these players to like get announced. Like you just kind of like
you're not good enough to have your own signing day.
I mean, like you can't really have too much hype around a player that no one's ever heard of, and like maybe doesn't have that much pro experience. So I think that's fair. I don't think you need to have every single signing be a big event. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get like 5 in a day or something like that, and like another like 4 or 5 in another day. But I think it was more likely like I could see like 5 players being announced at once.
Yeah.
And to your point, Josh, we could probably we could name at least a starting 11 right now, right? We could have Jamali Waite in goal. You could have 3 across the back with Ordonez, Farrell, and Hogan. You could have your 2 outside guys being Dos Santos, who I guess picked up some time against Pitt, and Rovey. And then in the midfield, you could have Ibarra, Kenny, and Mertz. And then up top, you can have Dikwa and Kiza, or just Dikwa or just Kiza. And like, there's your starting 11. Whether that's like the best starting 11 we have, who knows? But we have that. So do with that what you will. I think some of it was a bit, at least for me, I was a bit worried. I'm still worried, But like, especially during the preseason, we haven't really seen Kenny. We haven't really seen Dos Santos, in which case you are relying on trialists. Haven't really seen Dequa a ton either. And so it's kind of like when you don't see these guys, you're starting to wonder with every week that passes, how close are we to them actually playing and getting some minutes before the season starts. So
Dos Santos is coming off of an injury last season, right? That's why he was out for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got a few minutes in the game this weekend, which we can talk a little bit about. So we did have 2 preseason matches this week. We played Detroit on Tuesday, 0-0 draw. Detroit was pretty tight-lipped. It was supposed to be a closed door thing, even though we learned about Tula showing me. So take that for what you will. Saturday night against Pitt at Highmark, we ended up winning 2-1. We got goals from Kizza and Mertz, but again, there was a lot of trialists that got time. It sounded like Waite may not have gotten many minutes, if any. So we had a trialist keeper in there. And so again,
trialist keeper or the second keeper that we signed? I forget his name.
I think there was a trialist that got some time. So I, take that for what you will. But so far this week, or so far this preseason, the team likes to tout that we've only let in 1 goal while we scored 5. I think, again, you have to sort of weigh that against the competition. But we got 3 goals against Penn State, 2 against Pitt. Otherwise, the rest of them were pretty much 0-0 draws. We have no idea what happened against Columbus Crew. So really, it all comes down to, at least in terms of the preseason, Louisville comes to town on Saturday at 2 p.m., which free to attend, Highmark Stadium. Concessions will be open. Looking at sort of what Louisville has done so far this preseason, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. They seem to have either drawn or lost against MLS opponents. So they drew 0-0 against Nashville, 2-2 against Sporting KC. They lost 3-1 to Austin FC, and they lost 2-1 in the Seattle Sounders. But against USL competition, they played the Colorado Springs Switchbacks and won 3-0. And Kev, they played Knoxville, and they drew 2-2 most recently. So no idea what to expect when they come to town here on Saturday. One thing we can expect, though, Josh, is that there's an AGM beforehand, which starts at noon. So what's going on with the AGM?
Yeah. Starts at noon. We're going to have the upstairs area. So we decided, since they're going to actually start concessions an hour before the game. So we'll just figure if you want food, you can go downstairs to get food an hour after the AGM starts. We have 3 people running for 2 member rep positions. If you are currently a Steel Army member or signed up this year, you should have got an email on Monday all about the candidates with their little bios, and they wrote down like a paragraph of like information. It was pretty good. All of them are great candidates. So I'm super excited for this year. Other than that, pick up your membership. We have all the merch. We have new car magnets. So if yours is like mine and pretty faded after like 4 years or whatever it is since we last sold car magnets, time to get a new one. We'll have those available. And another cool thing is that we actually just put up all of our Teespring shirts.
They look great. I went and looked at them today. Yeah, they look fantastic. I want to get a few.
It's cool. And with Teespring, all the proceeds goes towards our community outreach group. So like they decide where to spend the money within the community, different charities. All that money will end up going to a charity of some sort. Like it's just going to be dependent on the community outreach and what organizations they pair with this season. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. You mentioned the individuals that are running. I noticed that if a couple of them, if even one of them gets in, you're going to be outnumbered on the board in terms of Mongols versus Houndsy, right? Because like there's gonna be more Houndsy members than there will be Mongols. So yeah.
I mean, that's already the case, so it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, never mind. But yeah. Yeah, so for sure. And that's open to everybody, right? You don't have to be a Steel Army member to show up at the AGM.
No, the AGM itself is actually where a lot of people buy their membership. So like, even if you don't have a membership from last year, you can come to it and listen to what we have going on this year. We'll talk about different plans we have, TIFO stuff, bus trip stuff, all that kind of information. And then you can actually just sign up there if you want to, or if you don't want to, that's fine too. It's also kind of just a cool way to usher in the new season and get everyone prepped for it. Hopefully we can get some people from the organization to talk during the meeting as well, like maybe Jeff or Nicole. I'm not sure who's all going to be there yet, but that's the plan.
Yeah, sounds great. Something that occurred to me, again, it might have been today, or no, maybe it was this weekend. I think I messaged you, Josh, where traditionally the team has done a season ticket holder event where then they roll out the players and you get to see all the uniforms and the kits for the season. And apparently there's just been no word about that, right?
Yeah, I'm like 99% positive we're not going to have a new kit this season.
That'd be my guess too.
Yeah, like I feel like there would have been some buzz. Like it's a small possibility that maybe the away kit changes a little bit. But like we're not going to get all new kits. Like it's not going to be a new home and away, which we haven't done that in a long time anyway. So I'm not surprised by that. I was kind of hoping that it would be like every other year we have like the home one changes one year, the away one changes the next year, then the home one changes the next year. Like that's what kind of like the rotation I was hoping for. So it will be a little bit disappointing if we don't get a new, I think it would be the away kit this year. But we'll see.
I'm bored. Like
you just want something. You're starved for anything.
Something. Like we said, in the at the very end of last season, I was like, just do something that surprises me. And like no new kits, no player announcements, no like we have nothing. Like we're literally 2 weeks away from the season and we're sitting here fishing for stuff to talk about because we're like, I don't know. They played Detroit and we didn't hear anything about that. So maybe we don't have player names.
We partnered with a science museum in Rochester. That was news. I don't know what that's all about. I think it's like the Museum of Play or like the Center of Play. I don't know. I saw the tweet and I got very confused why we were partnering with someone in Rochester.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it was like the Children's Museum, cool. But like it's something in Rochester. So why are we partnering with someone? Rochester has its own team. Like kudos for the sponsor, but well, so we did end up getting word that we have a date and a time for when we're supposed to play Rochester in the Open Cup, which we talked about last week in terms of how Rochester are just a complete mess. Assuming they can field a team, we're supposed to play them Wednesday, April 5th at 7 p.m. at Highmark. Should they choose not to show up, no idea what will happen, assuming we'll just sort of move on to the next round, but we will learn at a later date who we will actually face in the next round. The next round is when the MLS teams enter the competition as well. So there's a chance that, we could get an MLS team. If we have to travel again to an MLS team, I'm going to be pretty ticked about that because we're supposed to have a home game against Rochester and Rochester is an MLS Next Pro and then they just don't show up. And then it's like, oh, here you go. Now go play, DC United or go play Cincy again or something. It's just going to be, I'm just setting myself for a disappointing year.
The theme of Michael's mindset continues for the preseason.
It really is. It's all downhill from here. One other thing before we start to just get into this whole ranking thing that I just wanted to touch on, and it might take 2 minutes and then we'll be done, but we'll see. The Highmark Stadium announced today that apparently the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds, which is the Pittsburgh Ultimate Frisbee team, is going to be calling Highmark Stadium home this year. And so they play.
There's your news, Mike. Come on.
They're going to play 6 games at Highmark between April 29th and July 22nd. So I was like, oh, is this going to coincide with our season? Yeah, it's absolutely going to coincide with our season. And they play on some Saturdays. So there's going to be a stretch there where even if we won't be there, someone will be there playing at Highmark on a Saturday. So that'll be very interesting. It seems like they have a pretty decent following. And listen, more power to the Hounds if they're using the facilities to make money doing other things. I am all for that 100%. That's one of the big reasons why I think that having a women's team would be so huge, is because then you have 2 different teams that are calling Highmark Stadium home. Well, now if you have the Ultimate Frisbee team that's calling it home, you have the rugby tournament is going to be there playing. Highmark is going to become this hub beyond just soccer, which I'm perfectly fine with. To a certain extent, I encourage. So I think it's great. It'll be interesting to sort of see how it shakes out. They mentioned some cross promotional stuff with the Hounds, where maybe there's one of the halftimes at the Hounds game, they'll come out and play some Ultimate or do something. I don't know.
That'd be cool. I usually the Ultimate Frisbee stuff happens during the day anyway. Mm-hmm. So it could even be on the same day that the Hounds play at home, because they could just play at noon or something like that. And then they're cleared out well before 7 o'clock or whatever. So I could see that totally working out. And I think they've done ultimate frisbee at halftime before. I know we've done rugby because like when the rugby team in Pittsburgh first came about, they showed up to Highmark and played like during 10 minutes during the half or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, this is awesome. And I like stuff like ultimate frisbee because it's not as wear and tear on the turf. Like I want more of that and less of like football games being played there because I want the turf to not get screwed up as much. So yes, ultimate frisbee, perfect.
Agreed.
We got new turf 2 years ago at Highmark?
It's 2 or 3 years ago at this point, but it looks fine, but it's just when you use it for like especially football, and they were having a lot of football games, a lot of high school football games there and stuff like that. It gets torn up pretty fast. So
yeah.
But this is a case too where again the Monroe Junction training facility really allows the team to spend less time at Highmark because they're training there, and that saves the turf and allows other teams to come in and use it. And you're still not putting in as much wear and tear as if you're there every day practicing. So yeah, I mean, coming up aces for the team, at least in that regard. So that's good. So is there anything else you guys want to talk about here before I get into this like top 11 in the Lily era topic?
I got nothing.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so here was the idea, and I want it to go. It's going to go beyond just the three of us. Obviously, I'm going to put some polls out on Twitter. I'll put them out on YouTube. Although I did notice that what was it? There was something related to Twitter where I think sometimes our live stream just like won't show up on Twitter now, or like it stopped counting views, or like Twitter is on the fast track down. So just brace yourself. I hope it stays up, but I'm just brace yourself. Like this will also be on YouTube. But the thought is that Lily has now been with the team since 2018. Over the course of that period, we've had a number of players sort of come and go. And so the thought was it could be fun to look at each position, look at what players we have had in each position, and put together sort of like the top team if we were to pick players for each position from the Lily era. And so my thought was in the 45 minutes I had to scramble and put some graphics together, we would talk about keepers and center backs tonight. And then next week, we will talk about wingers, midfielders, and forwards. And what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll talk about, the players that we've had in those positions. Maybe we'll do some stats depending upon the position themselves. And then we can each pick our own and everybody else can pick their own. And then collectively we'll have this sort of like top 11 from the Lily era. And maybe we'll have some like bench players too, because they're just like too good. So with keepers, other than Jamali Waite, who can name me a keeper that we've had in the Lily era? Kevin, name me a keeper.
Vitiello.
Josh, name me a keeper.
Kyle Morton.
There's one other one. Can you name him?
Is it Stefan?
No,
that wasn't the Lily era.
No.
I mean, Dan Lynn is...
Dan Lind. Yeah. So we have the graphic
nice.
Up. Dan Lind was with the team in 2018. Kyle Morton was with us technically for 2 years. Danny Vitiello was with the team for 2 years, and Jamali Waite was obviously here last year. So, gentlemen, just looking at this list, Dan Lind, Kyle Morton, Danny Vitiello, Jamali Waite, if you had to guess, who do you think had the best save percentage out of those four? Kev, who would you guess?
Kyle Morton?
Josh, who do you think?
That's what I was going to say was Kyle Morton.
Kyle Morton. In terms of save percentage, Danny Vitiello topped out at a 72.4%. Yeah. Kyle Morton was at a 70%. So only a 2% difference. Dan Lind had a 67%. Jamali Waite had the lowest percentage, 64%. Now he has I was going to say he has a smaller body of work. Technically, Jamali Waite has played 13 fewer games than Vitiello. He's played 6 less games than Morton. So he still has some time to sort of make up some numbers. And the thought is that we'll see, but we're sort of assuming he might be the number one this season. Additionally, when you look at goals conceded per game, Danny Vitiello was at 0.89 per game. So the actual best goals conceded per game was Kyle Morton at 0.76 per game. So Kyle Morton had less goals conceded, but Danny Vitiello had a better save percentage. So with that in mind, these are just some basic stats. There are other intangibles as it relates to keepers that that don't necessarily show up in stats like this. Like, for example, Jamali Waite saving pens last season. That's not something that typically shows up on a stat sheet. Or, Vitiello was often playing behind a porous defense and had to face more shots and do more than somebody like Kyle Morton might have had to do. So based on this, based on some of the numbers, Josh, if I told you you're starting a new team right now, which one of these guys do you think that you're going to take to be your keeper?
The reason why I said Kyle Morton to begin with, because I thought he was our best keeper. So I would still go with Kyle Morton.
Kyle Morton, who I believe is with Louisville this year. So he's bounced around a little bit. He's with Louisville. Danny Vitiello is still with Sacramento. Kev, who are you taking?
I was going to say, was Kyle Morton at Louisville last year too?
I think so.
Yeah. I'll take Louisville's keeper off their hands.
Okay, so you're taking Morton.
Yeah.
I'm really torn here because I just don't know. Like, part of me wants to take Jamali Waite because I feel like there's something about him, especially that, the little bit that I've seen this preseason, that I think is exciting. And I think he has room to grow. I think he has the potential to have better stats than these other guys, but these other guys have clearly proven it. I mean, nobody's given Dan Lind any love, unfortunately. But
I shouldn't have laughed.
No. So
I agree. I think with Jamali Waite, you could say this about all the keepers, but I do think Jamali Waite's numbers will improve with like this year's performance. I think, he to echo what you said, Mike. Yeah, he showed flashes of, being a very, very good keeper, but I think he also equally balanced those moments out with some moments of, error. I think specifically, I think it was one of his first games or whatever away at Louisville, and I think he rolls the ball out to a Louisville player or something. So yeah, we'll see what experience does for him.
Well, and one thing to consider too, now that I think about it, so Kyle Morton was here multiple years. His first year here, he really didn't do much at all. He was brought in, he was a former Rhino, and we were like, oh, this guy, he knows Lily, did like nothing. And then his second year was when he blew up. Danny Vitiello came in and was sort of a backup to Thomas Gomez, sort of took the number one spot from him late in the season and then blew up his second year. So who knows? Maybe Jamali Waite will have his like big season this season and then go out west or something.
Here's the other thing is I think subconsciously I'm leaning towards Kyle Morton more just because I remember him being a lot bigger than Danny Vitiello or Jamali Waite. And to me, it's just, tall goalkeepers are great. And that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Cool.
I say
good graphics, Mike.
I feel like you guys have sort of, no matter what I pick, you guys have outweighed me 2-1. So I'll go with Kyle Morton, and we'll say that Kyle Morton will be our starting keeper. But I'm really interested to hear what other people have to say. So like I said, we will put a poll up, and you guys can vote, and we'll go from there. The next category, gentlemen, this is where it gets a little bit trickier, is center backs. We have had a number of center backs, and this list is actually those who spent a decent amount of time playing with the team. So starting in 2018, Hugh Roberts was our center back, along with Todd Pratzner and Toby Adewale. And then the next year, Hugh left. Joe Greenspan came in. Tommy Van Kiesel came in. Skylar Thomas was there after that. And Skylar Thomas was around for a few years, a big body defender, played a lot of minutes. You had Preston Kilwine, who we all had really high hopes for, came in for sort of one season and then left. And then over the past few years, you had Jelani Peters, Mikael Williams, and Shane Wheat. Finally, Ordonez comes in this last season, and now we've already been singing the praise of Arturo this preseason. It sounds like the defense is going to run through him. So this is where it's going to get interesting, guys, because there's a number of guys here who got a lot of minutes for the team, who've done a lot of really good things for the team. Let's say that in a given Lily system, let's say we'll pick 3 center backs. We'll start 3 center backs and then go 2 wingers so that we're not picking just 2 center backs. So Kev, you seem to be salivating over there. So
Well,
just give me one. Just give me one. We'll go around and we'll
all
each
right.
sort of pick one.
I'll make it easy. Funky Zeal, easy.
Ah,
Yeah, it feels like Tommy V is a bit of a gimme.
Yeah.
Josh, give me one.
I mean, I wanted to say Tommy V, but I guess Joe Greenspan.
Yeah, Greenspan was my second too.
Yeah, I was saying those are my 2 tops right there. So
Okay. So I was gonna say like maybe we each have a different top 3, but if you start with Tommy V and Joe Greenspan, there's 9 other guys to fill 1 spot.
I feel confident that my 3rd pick won't be any of your 3rd picks.
Todd Pratzner.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. Dude. Pratzner was solid as ever. And I just loved how it was just like what? It was, oh man, maybe 2 seasons ago where it was just like out of nowhere mid-season Todd Pratzner starting a game. And I was like, did we even sign him? Like, where is Todd Pratzner coming from? And he just comes in, does a job, and he was solid. I love Todd Pratzner. Yeah, he's my 3rd.
Josh, what are you thinking?
I mean, I was originally thinking Toby Adewale, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, this one's a lot harder for me. Like Toby was probably going to be my pick. I really like Hugh Roberts, but maybe that's just biased because I like him as a person so much that I would love to have him back. No, I'll stick with Toby.
Okay. I think from a sort of impact on the team and the community and like outreach, I think Hugh Roberts for sure. Like, can you imagine a back line of, Tommy V in the middle, flanked by Joe Greenspan and Hugh Roberts? Like, that's insane.
Get out of here, Todd Pratzner.
You're right. Obviously.
But I think what makes this difficult too is that I think that Peters and Williams are sort of unsung. They were here the past 2 years. They did a job. I know that there was some Shane Wheat hate from us, and then he sort of came on as an offensive powerhouse last season. And then you have Arturo that, again, he's sort of the Jamali Waite scenario where it's like he had a really good year last year and he could be, the next Joe Greenspan or Hugh Roberts or Toby Adewale. So this is tough. As I was putting together this list, I was like, crap. Like, how do we do this? So we're all in agreement about Tommy V.
Yeah.
And Greenspan.
Unless you're not. I mean, you're the only one that didn't really.
Yeah, Mike.
See, for me, it comes down to, oh man, I was going to say like 3 or 4 players for 2 spots.
To give you more time to think, Mike, I will say.
I don't need more time to think. I just don't know.
I was thinking like, if we're playing 3 center backs, I think Funky Azeal's, the role that he played most in a 3 center back system was in the middle.
Right.
And I don't want to see Greenspan on a right-sided or left-sided center back of a 3 necessarily either. So they're both kind of, for me at least, kind of central of the 3, which might make things awkward. I think Funky Azeal probably, I don't know. So that could be an argument for what you're trying to think around. I'd still take both of them without even thinking because they're just extremely talented players. But yeah.
Okay. So for me, Tommy V is a gimme. And at this point, I think part of my problem with Toby is I liked him personally as well. Like he'd been on the show a few times.
Well, that's true.
We caught up with him. He's a great dude. And I think he was another young one with a lot of potential. So you have the Toby and the Arturos where it's like young guys that are going to grow in the position and can put in a shift. And then you have like the Hugh Roberts and the Joe Greenspan that bring sort of the experience and are just sort of like powerhouses. So, oh man. Okay. Ordonez or Adewale? Josh.
I mean, I picked Adewale, but I do think Ordonez is solid. Like I am not sad that we have Ordonez right now.
Right. That's a non-answer. Kevin, Adewale or Ordonez?
I'd take Ordonez. For whatever reason, I have less blunders in my head around Ordonez versus Toby. I think Toby's baseline game without any serious errors might be a little better than Ordonez, but for whatever reason, I remember some blunders from Toby.
So then I was going to say Greenspan or Hugh Roberts, but it sounds like you guys are both taking Joe Greenspan in that scenario.
Yeah.
So maybe we say Tommy, Joe, and Ordonez. Are we okay with that being our three?
I am.
I mean, I'm happy with Pratzner, but yeah.
It's funny because I had put together my own sort of stats as I was looking through this to try to see if there were some comparables. And I was like, how do you even compare these guys? Like, is it clearances? Like, how do you measure the success of a defender? It's not as clear cut as like save percentage, which that's not even a clear cut stat. That's just something you could use. And and so Justin had put together a spreadsheet where he's been tracking stuff for years. And I was like, dude, you don't even have Pratzner on here. And he was just laughing.
Criminal.
Yeah. So Josh, are you opposed to Tommy V, Joe Greenspan, and Ordonez?
No, I'm not. That sounds good to me. I did not have a strong argument for Adewale. I just had to pick a third, and out of all those, I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
And the rationale there is we could go with Tommy V and sort of two veterans in Greenspan and Roberts, or you can go with sort of the younger. I mean, Adewale is no longer a young guy, but like, I shouldn't say that. He's substantially younger than I am. Or you could go with like the new guys that are sort of learning the trade, which are sort of the Adewale and the Ordonez. So it's like pick one of each. So Tommy V, Joe Greenspan, Arturo Ordonez. So, starting in the back, we said Kyle Morton is your keeper, and then you have Joe Greenspan, Tommy V, and Arturo Ordonez in front of him. That's a pretty solid back four to start. So again, this category in particular, we might have to do like a tournament style where we sort of put like, how many do we have here? There's I can't do
11.
There's 11. So maybe we do a few groups of 3 and one of 2, and people can sort of pick, their favorite from those. And then we'll have like a tournament style to figure that out. The keepers, there's just 4 of them. So it'll just be like, pick one. But it'll be interesting to sort of see how this shakes out for sure. And then next week, the thought is we'll have a whole bunch of players to talk about. We'll have a Louisville game to talk about. We'll have an AGM to talk about. And then in addition to that, we can talk about, we'll see. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Maybe we'll save this for some other week where it's a little bit slower. We'll come back and we'll pick our wingers and our midfield and our forwards. But I mean, you start thinking through some of the midfielders, some of the forwards, like this is not going to be easy. But yeah, regardless, it was a good time going back through the list of players from like 2018 all the way through and going, oh yeah, I forgot that we had, Francois. I forgot that, Nico Brett spent a few seasons with us. And
I bet you guys are going to pick Danny Griffin for your midfield, aren't you?
Listen, no joke. I can't even remember everyone that we've had. I mean, other than Kenny. Kenny's been the one constant that's been here since Lily got here in midfield. But there's a number of guys, as I was just like glancing through the list, I barely even remember their names. So
I'm not lying, by the way. Like, I think there's a 10% chance Pratzner starts the year for the Riverhounds.
Kevin Kerr. Kevin Kerr is a midfielder during the Lily era. So Kevin's waving it off because he needs to be the superior Kevin in Pittsburgh, who's not even in Pittsburgh. So yeah,
it's not it at all.
Be that guy. Be that guy. Even wingers. I mean, you have Ryan James and Jordan Dover, and
I wouldn't put Ryan James. See, that's the thing. I kind of would.
Would you put Ryan James midfield?
No, yeah, maybe, but I equal 50-50 him in midfield or defense. So
would you? Yeah. But here's the thing: would you start Ryan James over Tommy V, Greenspan, or Ordonez?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I'd start Ryan James over Ordonez without even thinking.
That's what I was gonna say. Ordonez is the only
As
one
a
I would
center
say.
back?
Sure, why not?
I'd rather have Ryan
could
James
play
sitting as like
anywhere.
a holding midfielder. I know. I almost rather have him as like the holding midfielder in front of them.
Sure,
But-
I'll let him play anywhere. I don't care, except goalkeeper. Like
Like
yeah.
if I was setting up the team, I would almost prefer Tommy V as the holding midfielder, and then have maybe get a Hugh Roberts or a Toby in that back line.
I mean,
but like we're not.
For me, I would put Vonkizio, Greenspan, and James all around the same value. It's hard for me to split them.
Yeah.
Wait. Say that again. You said Vonkizio, Greenspan, and James.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around the same value. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see why. Like, I completely understand.
Who's going to be the next one? Because honestly, I'm trying to think, especially in the Lily era, what other player would make it in that like S tier of players for me? And I don't know if there is anyone else. I think it's those three.
That's what's tricky, right?
Yeah.
Like you can make an argument. I mean, Kenny's been solid, but I don't think he's ever had like a season that just like blew my mind or
I mean, for the Hounds, are you trying like?
Yes.
I don't know. He's pretty solid. Like I feel
and we
like
can constrict it to the Lily era. Yes, I know. I agree. He's pretty solid. I just don't know if he makes it in that S tier level of like.
Explain what you mean by S tier for people.
I don't know. Isn't it like a ranking system, right?
Yeah.
You have like A, B, C, D, E, F, but then S is like above A. So like S is like, Jordan and like LeBron level, right? And everyone else is just like A or whatever.
So maybe what we'll do is after we go through this, we'll pick like our MVP of the team. And that's the S tier right there. Because I mean, you're right. They're going through that list. There are a handful of players that you can be like, no, they were the difference makers for the season they were there. And players like Tommy V, players like Ryan James, they're smart enough. Lily moved them all over around the field, and they were making differences everywhere. So, yeah, interesting.
I think in another time, Alex Dixon gets close just from how purely talented Alex Dixon is. But yeah,
I don't disagree. I feel like it's just for whatever reason, his spot was never really.
Yeah, he never fully bloomed, I think, under Lily.
No.
And that's saying something because he still put up pretty good numbers.
Yeah, agreed. I totally missed this because I had something up on the screen, but Liz said, I hope there are no players. I want to see your head explode. So who knows? Maybe between now and Louisville, we won't get any new player announcements. And yeah,
I mean,
we'll learn the rest of the team whenever they announce the starting 11 on game day against Birmingham.
I think that, okay, if they're secretly keeping signings behind closed doors, then whatever. But if it's legitimately they haven't signed anyone between now and then, that's serious worry because you're talking about an injury away from something where you're not playing, a starting 11.
Wasn't it Detroit that had that issue last season?
Mm-hmm.
Like they went into the season like they barely had enough people to field a team. It's like, well, I hope they don't get injured because that's all they got.
And
honestly, I think that's probably part of like tactic and reason for signing a second goalkeeper, like among anything, because that's the one position you can't have. Like, you have to have someone in there.
And if that's the case, it just makes me like even more so like why? Like what is causing this? Is it just Lily doesn't want to bring in players, or we don't have the money? Like which one? It's got to be one of the two. So,
I think it's a Lily thing.
Yeah.
I think he just refuses to, like I don't know. And honestly, I'm taking my cue a little bit from what you both have said over the many years we've been doing this podcast. But from what it sounds like, he just refuses to pay what he believes is an overvalue of whatever a player he thinks is worth.
I mean, look, just if I pull up the defensive chart again, the center backs, like. If we held on to Hugh Roberts or Todd Pratzner or Toby or Joe or Tommy V.
Todd Pratzner is a free agent, but according to Wikipedia. So,
do you remember? This made me think. Do you remember when we had Dave Brandt and he brought those brothers like out of retirement? Like, was it one was like practicing law or something? He was like, "No, come back and play pro soccer." They were both from Messiah.
Yeah.
I can't remember their last name, but
remember either.
one was like an assistant coach, and then he was like, no, you're going to play too. You're going to be an assistant coach and you're going to play. And yeah, you know, stranger things have happened. So yeah. Yeah, it's just, oh man, even Shane Wheat was starting to grow on me. So like to see these guys leave, it's just hurts. Well, guys, we keep saying we have one more preseason game. It is Louisville. Just we're less than 2 weeks away from the season starting. March 11th, 7 p.m. in Birmingham. Next week's show will be very interesting because that's the first time we're going to have to make our predictions. And anyone else who is participating can make their prediction as well. We mentioned that basically the way this pick'em game will work is every week before the game, we'll put out a post on YouTube that you can go and comment on. Give us your score predictions. We will keep track every week. If you pick the correct score, you get 3 points. If you pick the correct outcome, so like win, loss, draw, you'll get 1 point. And if you get nothing right, you get 0 points. Whoever has the most points at the end of the season will get 2 free tickets to the Steel Army section for 2024 for the entire season. Season tickets, like free. Done and done. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, and we should do this off air, but we're going to do it on air just to like put you in the hot seat. Should it be whoever has the highest points that isn't us, they get it? Or do they have to beat us? Do they just have to have the most points overall? You're both shaking your head no. Okay, so even if we run the table with everybody and we take the top 3 spots.
That's going to happen.
Because that's going to happen. Then basically whoever came in 4th would then get the tickets. Yes. So that's what we're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Yeah. It would be really sad if like at the end of this, it's like, well, no one won. So ha. Suckers. Yeah, it feels cheap.
It does feel cheap. So yes, we will not do that. So guaranteed somebody who is not involved with Mongols. So that includes Steve and Justin and Laura Ellen and Liz. They also cannot win. So yeah, if you want a chance to win the tickets, you have to be a supporter of the show. So again, we put the post out. It's $10 for the entire year. It's over on YouTube. We'll put it again on Twitter, assuming we can tweet. Go join $10 a month. And if you signed up last year, then you're automatically entered as well. You don't have to sign up again and be a supporter of the show again. And literally the $10 will be turned right around and help to pay for the tickets. So like, don't think that we're like making bank off of this because it's going right back to you. So yeah, go become a supporter of the show. Like I said, we'll share the stuff on social again tomorrow, this week. Sign up so that once we get started, you got a good shot at 2 free tickets. Like that's crazy. Yeah. Thanks, Harry. Harry is saying that people should have to beat the hosts, but yeah, that's only because Harry can't actually use the tickets here. So he just wants to see other people try to actually fight us. So
I'll be very skeptical if Weichel Parks or Tosh, Kuroka wins at the end of the year or something.
Todd Pratzner.
Yeah.
Some breaking news about Rochester. Sources tell this guy, I don't know who he is, that the current owners of Rochester NYFC, terrible name, have reached an agreement with an Italian investor for the purchase of the team that should be completed in a matter of time. What's matter of time? That's a given. But there was also an interesting thing in here, said that Jamie Vardy close to leaving, and more about the only independent team in blah blah blah. So then it links to his article about it. But yeah, so sounds like maybe they're getting invested. They still only have 8 players at this point. So we'll see.
That we think they have, like but it's when I don't know when the MLS Next Pro season starts. MLS started this past weekend. So like, how do you field a team when the season's already started?
Well,
and
MLS has already started, not MLS Next Pro. Who knows when that starts?
Regardless, but let's say that starts next weekend or 2 weekends from now. Are they going to have a full team and a coach and a place to play? Like
we're only like 3 players ahead of them.
Well,
at least we have a coach. They don't even have a coach.
Yeah,
all right.
And I was going to say, not that matters with MLS 2 teams, but like that can't look good for the MLS Next Pro image. So yeah, they don't play us until April. so they have at least another month-ish to get their act together. But I'm not holding that hope.
Who do you think the Italian investor is? Conte, Mario Batali.
Who doesn't
Mario
like
Batali? Mario Bart. Oh, what's the guy's name who used to play for like Liverpool?
Yeah,
we all both know that. Yeah,
he played for everyone. He played for Inter.
It's Balotelli.
Balotelli. That's what I was going to say.
Okay,
Jeez, that's why.
He was the one. Do you remember when Man City came to play at Heinz Field? He tried doing like a spinorama on goal and completely missed and immediately got benched. He was also the one that two guys ran on the field and got a selfie with him, and then they were like escorted down the tunnel.
That's right.
Legend.
Yeah, legend. You said Italian, and I thought Zlatan. I know he's Swedish, but he's still playing.
No, Zlatan's Swedish.
Yeah. That'd be crazy. Zlatan was in Pittsburgh to get his knee replaced, so I don't know. He wouldn't buy Rochester, but.
Who doesn't like Vardy? Someone who doesn't like Vardy, who just did it just because they didn't like Vardy.
Funny.
Nobody likes Vardy.
Really funny.
What if Zlatan bought Rochester, but they had to rename the team the Zlatans, so it was the Rochester Zlatans.
Still a better name than Rochester NYFC. Yeah.
Harry just added in chat that MLS Next Pro is scheduled to kick off on March 24th, which is what he has heard, but with no official schedule. Who actually knows? So less than a month to build a team and get a manager, and crazier things have happened. So who knows? We'll see. Guys, I feel like we've been rambling here for the past 15 minutes, and that's fine. Is there anything else going on that you guys want to talk about?
I don't want to talk about MLS, the actual season starting, because
why not, Josh? What happened?
It was bad. It was bad. There was a lot of like high-scoring games, one-sided high-scoring games, and of course you have the whole West Coast situation where it's weather is terrible over there right now, so like a whole bunch of games got canceled, or I think it might have only been one or two, but still postponed and all that kind of stuff.
How was the coverage on Apple TV Plus?
I didn't watch a single one live. Like I on Sunday I threw on a game on my phone just to see if it would work, because they do some games on just Apple TV. Like you don't have to subscribe to Apple TV MLS season subscription. So they had one on Apple TV regular, so I threw it up, and it was fine. It looked like a regular MLS game. Like I couldn't tell the difference between the broadcast quality. I did hear that one of the games was being announced by USL regular. I just forgot his name, but by our regular announcer. So it was really weird to watch that one and like listen to them talk about the game and be like, "Hey, this sounds like I'm watching an MLS or USL game." Yeah.
When we watched Shrinking, which I plugged earlier on Apple TV Plus, the advertisements for MLS are everywhere. So like Apple's plugging the heck out of this. It'll be interesting to see what that does for the league. I know we had talked about, and this is like another rabbit hole, but coverage for the USL this year, they've signed a 1-year deal with ESPN. So it'll be back on ESPN Plus this year, and then we'll see what happens after that. But we know so much of revenue for the teams comes from those streaming rights. And so, it'll be interesting to see what Apple does for MLS, and it'll be interesting to see what the USL does come next season. And we go from there. I think that's it, guys. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we got some players to talk about between now and the next episode. It'd be really funny if we come back and we still don't know.
Funny is the wrong word, but okay.
I was going to say we'll laugh so hard we'll cry. If you're around Pittsburgh, get down for the game at Louisville. Again, it's free to get in. Concessions will be open. Go to the AGM at noon, Josh. Yep. Be there. Get your gear. And otherwise, I guess, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Later.